Welcome to the Elo Files. It's 8.0, the whole soggy mess. Oh, I don't even know where to begin. God, the wargaming. It's been a long road. So 8.0. Um, all right. How about before we get to 8.0? I've been playing this game since August of 2016, and so fair amount of time, 2.5 years, 8,000 plus battles. I think I know the game pretty well. I've done a fair amount of interacting on the forum, listened to a lot of streamers, listened to a lot of community contributors, watched a lot of the company streams, and have attempted to interact with a lot of the company. But I just think there's things that wargaming doesn't do as good as they can. I think they're screwing up, and I think they're too proud to admit it. I think that's kind of where I'm going to be coming from for this little chat. Does wargaming create chaos intentionally? Because maybe that's it. I know that the people who run wargaming, they have a different social climate and things are different. So but I don't know. It seems to me there's a lot of little problems with the game, but there's also a lot of what I see as kind of major problems too. I got a list of the little problems down below, and I'll get to those later. I actually wrote a lot of this down because it's just so much going on. If I don't make some notes, how the hell? So, there are times when it's like it feels like wargaming. Maybe they don't know where they're going or how they're going to get there. Like they're just poking in the dark and seeing what happens. The game is great. I love what they've done, the ship design and what happens, but they keep throwing wrenches into the process that upset the balance of what's going on. And it's not so much that they're throwing the wrench in, it's how they're doing it and the end results of how they're doing it. Just an example of that would be the radar. Back it all the way up to when it was first introduced. They made the mistake right then and there of introducing something that was OP and actually didn't work right. You could see through islands. They never should have brought out radar that could have seen through islands. They should have said, okay, this isn't good enough, back to the drawing board, let's reshape things so that it will work, so that when it comes out, it will be a good mechanic. Because if you can hide behind an island with no repercussions, and radar people, it's a bad mechanic. And the fixes that they're applying to it, they help, but the root issue is that lazy coding, I don't want to call it lazy coding, as such as it is a decision not to make it work better or work the way it should. Carriers, the same thing. I mean, the whole carrier problem might even stem from the fact that carriers do ruin a battle. It's what happened in World War II when the carriers came into it. It was pretty much, they dominated everything. So why aren't they going to, that's a challenge. But, there's a lot of, I don't think wargaming hears its customer base. And people said, what are you going to do? Tell a multi-million-dollar company how to do their thing. It's like, well, a lot of multi-million-dollar companies have gone down the tubes because they didn't listen to their customers. There's a bunch of them out there. So consider that, and again, hey, it's their company. They can do what the hell they want with it. I don't. If I'm going to create a painting, I certainly don't want somebody standing over my shoulder going, that shade of yellow is a little bit bright, So I can appreciate their sense of independence and what they do. I've had my own businesses. I understand that concept, but you also understand that if your customers are pissed off at you, then maybe you need to listen to them. You talked about, I've got 2.5 years, 8,000 games. There are people like myself who, participate in the forums and are a little bit more vocal than others. And we do that because we care. We've got a lot of passion about what we do, and part of our passion we put into this game. And, so we put in the thousands of hours that it takes to become skilled at what you do, and we probably spend more money than we should. So in that process, we develop a sense of ownership and a sense of investment into the game. And when it gets changed dramatically, it upsets that process that, all of a sudden it's like, well, this isn't what I invested in. I have a friend that had put a huge amount of effort into becoming really good at the Japanese destroyers, and over the process of nerfing them and splitting the destroyer line, it was like, this is what I paid, this is what I bargained for, this is what I spent money on, and it just turned him off to the game, and he really hasn't come back. They need to think long term about what they're going to do and how they're going to do it and how it's going to affect the user base. But again, it's their game. They can do what they want. So 8.0 comes along, and the carrier thing was, you're right, the CVs were way OP. Wrecking the game had to be changed. So they have the complaints about the public test in the last session and in the beta test before that were they didn't structure them well. They didn't seem to listen to the feedback they got. We got to the live version with stuff in it that people had been pointing out in, not only in the beta, but also in the public tests. But my experience with the public test was, and I've said this in the forum and yada yada, they had 30-second queue time, so you weren't going to get any amount of real people in a battle with that short a queue. Therefore, it turned it into a PvE experience, not PvP, so you couldn't have real battles. What was the point of that? That was very frustrating. And then they complained that they didn't get enough participation, but they've been told by me and others for well over a year, you need to compensate the user base better if you want them to give up time that they're paying for on the live server. If I've got an hour or two to play at night and I do it on the public test server instead of live server, that day is gone. I need to, think about that. But there it is, So, the lack of participation on the public test server, I don't know if they even wanted it. With the 30-second queue times, they weren't going to get it. The whole point of being able to do the public test was to play against other people, not against other bots. It tested the mechanism very well, but it didn't test the PvP, and when it got to the live server, you saw the result. Everybody went batshit crazy and went, ah! So, Wargaming does not hear or understand us. They seem to work in a bubble, and we're all apparently not very useful. I don't know. And another issue that aggravates me personally is the lack of a tiered play structure, such that if you do not develop a certain amount of talent, you don't get to play in a certain level of play. So as it is now, the game's been out long enough that the true potatoes are now failed their way to tiers 9 and 10, and the play there is just really poor. The level of play is just bad. Now I know it's random, but it just is. So yeah, that's tough. With a person that wants to play with better players, randoms becomes old. There's no clear tutorials for the game. Single flag selection process menu is just a joke. Come on, get that into single checkboxes and a couple of buttons. 2+2 minus 2+2 matchmaking is a constant issue for a lot of people. Tier 10 fixation, which you've gotten out of that lately, but the fixation of everything has to be tier 10 was just getting old. The constant fire hose of marketing that Wargaming puts out since last year is it's 5 and 6 news items a day getting piled at you. It just becomes too much. 3 and 4 and 5 different scenarios or challenges going on at the same time. People have said, look, can I use my premium time when I want to? You give me 3 days of free premium, but it starts ticking immediately. I want to use it when I want to. You know, right now I'm not playing much. If I could turn my premium time off, I would. How come the end game sound music isn't connected to the volume music control? How come that comes on really loud? It's connected to the sound effects, not the volume for the music. How come I keep getting dumped a port after battle, skipping the scoring screen? How come my carousel keeps reverting back to 2 rows instead of the 4 I set it to? How come I can't store my game results? Anyway. How come I can't play on a global player base? Other servers and games do it all over the world. But give us a global server, or a couple of global servers that we could play on with our current account. Why can't I take my account the way it is and play it on another server? How come I can't? Store game results. I want some more local storage. Make my game data available so that it can dump into some kind of local source that I could then mine and keep track of my progress. So, that's kind of my list of stuff, and I'm sure that, if you're a player that plays a lot, I bet you've got things that are like, oh, what about this and what about that? And there's a bunch of stuff that people care about. But the game's not as fun anymore, and it's not as fun because there's no teamwork, and even though you can get into clans and some of the other stuff, it's not as good as it could be if there was more effort put into a game structure that would require some skills before you were allowed to play at a certain level, etc. I know the potatoes give me a good target, but playing with potatoes becomes old. So, I'm grumpy and I'm an old man. So, wargaming. I don't know. I'm not confident in their ability to do what they say they want to do in a way that isn't going to just continue to alienate me and other people. I think the carrier rollout was just horribly done. Just absolute waste of time. Foisting that on the user base was really lame. And it didn't have to be. If they had had a public test server system that was adequate and attracted users, they wouldn't have to force this crap down our throats. And it is, because I don't have a choice. I have to play with it, And, one more thing, ranked. The damn gimmicks on ranked. Stop! My goodness. I'm gonna go walk the dog. Anyway.